You're listening to the Everything Went Black podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Everything Went Black podcast. This is the Hollow Lands episode. Bandmates Drugoth and Karl Hairkara join me this week for a long, epic discussion. And we talk about the first single for Hollow Lands, and how we made it, some of the things that were, sort of inspiring us and guiding us through the whole process. It was a lot of fun. Definitely a very casual conversation, so please enjoy. If you like this show, check out the rest of the Horseman podcasts. Kicking things off every other Monday, we've got Brandon Legion's Horror Wolf 666. Up next on Tuesdays, Jackie Smith's Into the Necrosphere, the greatest extreme music podcast in the land. Wednesday, of course, Everything Went Black comes at you, as well as Iblis Manifestations by Cheyenne of the band Trivax. Thursday is Necro Thursday for the Necromaniacs podcast. It's also day one of Karl's podcast, Soul Knocks. Friday, Spitball Media comes to you for an irreverent pop culture show. Saturday is a day off, but Sunday, Karl returns with day two of Soul Knocks. Yeah, Karl and I are well at work on the Darkness Weaves collaboration, so by now you should know we're going through all the work of Karl Edward Wagner, an incredible weird fiction, dark fantasy, and sword and sorcery author. I'd like to thank everyone for the continued support of this show. If you want to step it up one more level, you can join the Everything Went Black Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you get bonus content. For $5 a month, you get bonus content plus early access to the shows. And for $25 a month, you can become a sponsor. So the songs are done, man. I'm excited. It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it turned out good. Interesting story behind everything. It's just a bunch of tracks, bunch of ideas that when I had them in the demo forms, I didn't really was like, this doesn't really sound like any of the other things I'm doing. And it seemed like we've all been talking about working together on a project, so it just seemed like, this might be a great opportunity for us to collaborate. So yeah, I'm pretty organic, pretty satisfying the way the whole thing came around. And I like doing stuff where it's friends. It's like there's no pressure or any kind of like weird egos involved or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, it's like we did it. We did it and took the time we needed to do it. So
yeah, no, totally.
Yeah, I was talking to Austin the other day. I was thinking maybe our next thing we should do should be like an EP, like
Yeah.
like 4 or 5 songs. That's what I think should be the next step.
I agree. Yeah. No, definitely. Like the two songs is just like, because I don't know, it's kind of interesting because trying to figure out like a sound, you know what I mean? Or something that's like different. That's not just like a rehash of all the stuff that the three of us have done in other bands, And I think that the two songs that we have are very different than anything that the three of us have done, separately, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I would agree. Particularly because like I've done, my own version of like goth type of stuff, like with Orlock and those bands, but it's totally sounds totally different from your kind of what you're doing in this, and so it's like this is
I mean,
definitely very different.
I don't really think this is very, very goth and so, I mean, it has like a sort of element of that, but it's definitely more like in the kind of like punkish sort of vibe, which is something that I don't normally write songs like that. Like I don't normally have that in mind. Like when there's that sort of vibe, and for a long time I've wanted to do something that's like kind of stripped down like that. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, well, I guess like what I mean is that it's kind of definitely got that Sam Hain
Yeah,
element. The vocals, a lot of the vocals have that you did have that kind of quality to it. Like reminds you of like Celtic Frost, like on the third album, Into the Pandemonium with in some ways, like where he's kind of doing his Christian Death style vocals.
yeah, definitely, and but what's kind of cool though is like I didn't write in the lyrics, and I also didn't write any of the vocal patterns, and we can attribute that all to Drugoth, and that's a very different way for me to do any kind of vocals, or and it was definitely for me it was a good learning experience, and I think I grew as like a singer in that way too. So
Yeah, sounds like you kind of took a chance a little bit. Like you're like, I'm gonna try something, do some different things than I usually do. Plus with all the layering as well.
yeah. Well, I mean, I knew that he would come up with something good. You know what I mean? I knew that, like, being a fan of his music and his sensibilities when it comes to, I mean, even the arrangements too. Um, Drew Goff pretty much arranged. It had a lot of his input was with the arrangements too. And you know, that's something that for me is like very easy to let other people do. It's like so that was like kind of normal for me to sort of take that input from people. Like oftentimes, even like in Tombs, like my drummer, there you go, drummer again. Justin is always very collaborative when it comes to arrangements and stuff, and he even writes some of the riffs. But for vocals, it's always been like my own domain of like the lyrics and how to sing them and all that. So it was really, I just put trust in Drugoth to do something good, and I had no idea what it was going to sound like, and then we get the kind of whisper tracks, and I thought that was really interesting and sort of it was a way for me to kind of expand a little bit. I'm probably going to steal some of those ideas for other stuff too. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, because Drew Goff was like the fountainhead of lyrics for these two songs. Like you just
yeah.
pounded them out, all of a sudden they're there.
No, it was cool because and they came quick. Were they stuff that you'd had like written down in a notebook somewhere? Or did you write them specifically for these songs, Drew Goth?
Um, Kind of specifically for this. So I don't really write things down and then just sit on them. I try not to do that.
Really?
Yeah, which is kind of strange. But yeah, these kind of just wrote themselves. Um, my mind is a terrible and dark place, and and it's the prison that I'm serving a life sentence in. So this is a nice way for me. This is my catharsis, just to get things out. But I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. But I don't like to be too obvious. Hopefully, I don't like to be too obvious. And it's almost like I try to. I don't know. Everybody's entitled to their own sort of opinions on what the songs mean and what they take from them, like lyrically. And I kind of just prefer it like that. You can take what you will from it, but whether it's the truth behind it or not, it doesn't matter. It's your truth. You got to make it your own. But there's subliminal messaging and hidden things behind all the words, but that's all right. Just
Yeah.
a part of my process.
Do you think that one thing it seemed like to me on it was that the lyrics were kind of nice for you because it's something totally different from even like a different type of lyric from what you do for Drew Goth or Death Horde or our stuff like Blood Scourge and Black Flame Altar. Like it's totally different type of lyrics that you're able to access a different type of creativity writing these lyrics for these songs.
Yeah, that's another thing. I wanted to try something out of my comfort zone. And I have personal traits that I apply to my lyric writing. And I tried to do a complete opposite of what I'm usually do. So normally, like in Drugoth and most other stuff that I write lyrics for, it's like just a weird unwritten law, like a rule that I set for myself. It's it's quite the paradox because it is unbelievably personal to me, and but at the same time I make it so impersonal by never using the word I or me or they and referring to people or he or she or anything like that, like in my normal writings. But in this one, in Hollow Lands, I broke that rule, and I feel like that's the only time I'll ever break that rule. Um, I don't know. It's kind of warranted, I think, in this style of music.
Yeah, it's
But then,
different type of thing. Yeah.
but then again, it's like from different perspectives. So when, like, for an example, um, I don't know, in the first song, The Haunting, the first line itself is I heed the call from hollow lands. I am summoned. That could be about me. It could also just be about the main character in the story of these lyrics.
Right.
It's under interpretation. So
Either way, the songs are written from a kind of first person perspective, right? So
yeah,
the
yeah,
inside of
kind
the
of.
person's mindset. Yeah.
I feel like this style of music as well lends to more of a storytelling as opposed to what I'm used to musically. Like there's stories obviously and I'm trying to get a point across in other lyrical styles in other projects, but this one's a little bit more on the nose, whether that's because it's easier to understand, like the clarity in the singing that Mike does, or yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just my influences, like how they sort of tell stories in their lyrics, and I'm trying to rip that off and do a similar sort of thing. But yeah, I don't know. It all sort of came about. I wouldn't say easily, but organically, it sort of came together. I think I wrote one song like lyrically per week. I
Yeah.
don't think it took me too long.
That's pretty
I
quick. That's a fast pace. I mean, from my perspective, it is. I think it's very, like a pretty good tone, like a pretty good tempo to write songs at. Like one a week is like very quickly. I think for me,
uh, Austin and I are very much about writing stuff quick because if you think about the Black Pim Alter album we wrote. I mean, the music part, like the parts that I wrote, took a little bit longer over the course of a couple months of putting together the riffs. But once we was recording and we actually started writing the lyrics, we did the whole thing in like 2 weeks, I think.
Oh wow, damn.
And
Yeah, I
that was
remember
that,
you
and that,
mentioned that to me.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's cool.
that's including writing all the lyrics. Like we
Damn,
didn't
dude.
have any lyric. Yeah, we just wrote one song and then wrote the lyrics back and forth, and then next song. So we're pretty. That's kind of how I like to work. Is not overthinking things too much. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I tend to overthink everything, and and my like perspective too, in the lyrics that I write are pretty much the opposite. Like a lot of all the songs are like characters and for Tombs and actually for Scorpion Throne too, and it's like always told from the first person, but I'm my main inspiration for that is a lot of like like the weird fiction stuff that we're into, where you read like an Edgar Allan Poe story or Lovecraft or even like Thomas Ligotti's like work is oftentimes told through the first person, and it's like characters though, obviously like like Eric Zan is like a character, he's not specifically a person. And I play around with writing like fiction too, which the Patreon, I put one of the stories up, and if you bought the Holy Mountain version of the LP, you get like a little booklet that's got some of my fiction in there, and that's always first person for the most part. And I like doing that because you can be incredibly honest maybe about something like something that's real, but you can also skate away from that because like, oh, well, it's a character, you know what I mean? And it isn't
Yeah.
100% real, you know, it's
That
like
that's what I do a
combined,
lot, yeah.
yeah, like different, like an aggregate of your experiences that are like kind of woven together with like a fictional or philosophical, like, sort of atmosphere. And that's kind of how I approach like the Tombs and Scorpion Throne lyrics. And doing it this way is like was awesome because like I really, I mean, actually, to be honest, at the time we were writing all this stuff, I was tapped out lyrically. Like I didn't have any ideas, to be honest, like that were worth a shit, really. I mean, I have like, notebooks over here that I work on all year long, that I just put ideas down and they might, one thing I wrote a year ago might resonate with something that I wrote like a month ago. And then suddenly those ideas germinate and become something different. And that's always been like my process. So this time around, I was like, no ideas, it's like, and we're fortunate enough to have Drugoth and, maybe next time, Karl, you'll write some of the lyrics or, it's cool. It's like a truly like a collaborative experience. And I had my own ideas of like what, just vocal pattern wise, like what the songs, vocals would sound like. And they were completely different and better and more fitting to the song, really. And it really, for me, it was an incredible experience for that because, it opened me up to different ways of singing and different patterns. And, I don't know. I'm generally not keen on singing someone else's lyrics, except this time around, I had enough trust to know that it was going to be good. Between all the three of us, I think we'll are able to like live in that world of just complete trust in our creative abilities.
Yeah. Well, do you think that too, like writing lyrics that doing different vocal patterns and lyrics like helped sometimes I know like I think we all get in like little, like ruts with our vocal
Yeah.
patterns,
Oh
like
yeah.
where you kind of do the same things a lot. Where it's like sometimes it'd be nice to like find some way to kind of crack that open and think about lyrics, how to do vocal patterns in a different way, you know?
100%. 100%. Like, like I said earlier, like my approach initially, was different. And even like I think there's some demos, even singing Drew Gott's lyrics that were like different. That I don't know if I sent them to you guys or I just kept them here on my hard drive, but like they're more some of my approach to some of those earlier versions are just like the way I would normally do it in like Tombs, just like more extreme like vocals and even though I do a lot of singing in that band, like these songs are more melodically, actualized all the way through than anything I've ever really done, to be honest. And that to me, it was like really cool to do that, to have an opportunity to do that.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
I think that's
remember
cool.
that. Yeah,
The I think we got a good you got a good balance with the final versions, like with
Yeah.
some extreme vocals and clean vocals and layering the two, like when you had me layer some extreme vocals over one part. I remember
Yeah.
you asked me to, so like having these kind of layers, and then of course like all the group vocal
Yep.
parts that Drew Goff came up with. That I just kind of followed along, did my best to do to add to.
Well, it's interesting because like, when I was working on the sort of principal vocal, I'd listen back and I was like, oh yeah, I can hear other things in here. I can hear like there's some strategic spaces in the songs, and I'm like, and then when you listen to the final version with you guys' vocals, it really, to me, like creates this like there's like a chaotic element to it as well, which I think really serves the material.
Yeah, it definitely makes me think of again like it has that feeling of when you listen to like Sam Hain stuff with all the group vocals and a lot of old punk stuff as well, like from the
Yeah.
80s has a lot of that, like where it's like a lot of like some of those bands have a couple vocalists and they're like it's kind of chaotic sounding but it works, you know. So I think it's a cool combination with also the black metal elements you've added to this as well. So it's kind of like a
Yeah.
black metal Sam Hain or something.
Well, I mean, that's what keeps it from being like a punk record, which is like, I like some of that stuff, but I'm not the biggest fan of hardcore music or punk or any of that kind of stuff. I like certain things, but like as like a practitioner of that genre, it's not really my bag, you know what I mean? So I like that we were able to like sort of course correct a little bit. Not that's too strong of a term, but like steer it more into like a darker element, like a more metal like element than keep it in like the punk era, you know?
Yeah. Well, it definitely feels more like I guess like the kind of riffs feel like a more a metallic version of more of a goth or post-punk type of punk. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of where I get that
Yeah,
from. So
no,
it's like
totally.
they got more of that kind of vibe going on. Um and then I do feel like I know with the lyrics and the vocal patterns that Austin kind of came up with, I'm sure AFI was an influence and
Yeah, well, you guys are
right.
both very, very big fans of them, and I like. I mean, I never really got into that, and like, my wife is a huge AFI fan, and we went to go see them, and I told you guys last year we went to that show, and I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was great, and I think that Davey Havok's a really talented lyricist, performer, vocalist. And the band writes cool songs. Especially their last record.
Yeah. That was pretty high in your list, wasn't it, Drugoth? If I remember
Yeah, I
correctly.
think it was number three in my list of album of the year. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I am very much influenced by not just AFI but all of Davy's work. Him as a lyricist, um, yeah,
Yeah.
I find very influential. Just certain things he does. Um, I steal, not steal, but I commandeer the ideas that he uses.
Yeah, I could see that very much with the lyrics because it makes me think of the lyrics for like the way that he would put together lyrics for like the Son of Sam or um some of the older stuff, like the Black Sails or Sing the Sorrow, like kind of the way the lyrics are in those albums. Um that's kind of I could kind of see that influence in ones you wrote for this album, for this EP, I mean.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. That's my preference when it comes to AFI, like Black Sails, Art of Drowning, Sing the Sorrow. Um, but me saying that, I like all AFI, and yes, as well, the Son of Sam album. Um,
Yeah, Son of Sam album is sick. You got London May and Todd Youth uh, and Davey Havok on vocals. It's pretty sick.
yeah, it's a good album, and even some of his other projects like Black Audio really influenced me lyrically as well.
Yeah, Blocked
Um,
Audio is great.
Especially the Sex Cells album.
Yeah,
That one is a lot darker, I find.
it's still it's still one of their best ones. So the
I
first,
think that's my personal favorite album of theirs.
yeah,
And then even like Dream Car, the album that he did with the the band, no doubt, without Gwen Stefani.
I haven't heard
Um,
that actually.
yeah, you haven't heard that album?
No, I didn't even know he did
Yeah, I had no
that.
idea that it existed at all.
Yeah, please listen to it. It's self-titled album, Dream Car. It's very, very good. It's basically, yeah, no doubt, but without Gwen Stefani, and it's got Davey Havok on it.
That's
And
that's crazy.
it's good. It's very good. It's hard to explain. It's like not. It's a little bit poppy, but it isn't. It's yeah. I don't know. I can't explain what it is, but it's very, very good. There's one or two songs in there that are a bit um, flamboyant, let's say. But yeah, it's a really good album. Front to back, it's really good. The music, uh, you know, it really made me appreciate the musicianship of the band behind No Doubt. I'm not really a fan of No Doubt or Gwen
No.
Stefani, but yeah, that just proves, if you get a really good band with a good vocalist behind it, it can completely change uh, the capabilities of everybody involved. But no, it's a really good album. I highly recommend it.
I just think
Yeah, I
he's an
can't.
interesting guy too, man. Like right before that show last year that we went to, my wife put me in front of a essentially a 2 hour interview with him that was broken up into two parts.
Oh, was that the
On
hard law?
Yeah, it's some dudes that run like a channel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, the hard law interview.
I'm not I wasn't familiar with their show that they had, but he is a pretty interesting guy, I think. And there was one moment on that which I thought was really funny, and it was like this very ironic sort of element where the two guys were talking about how, well, first of all, Davey Havoc was wearing like this black like caftan or something, and he had a mustache and like this,
Yeah.
70s like afro, and
His Bob Ross look right now.
very unhardcore, very, very
Yeah.
un very, and in the same way that it's not punk, it's the most punk because back in the day that Davey Havoc, I mean, he and I are like, in the same age group,
Yeah.
like when we were kids, punk was like a weirdo thing. It wasn't about like tattoos and like baseball hats and things like that. You know what I mean? It was like odd people, people who were into like bizarre shit were into like punk music, and that's how it was when I was a kid, then this like conformist sort of very militant, you know,
Uniforms.
uniform came around where everyone wore like champion sweatshirts and had short hair and, were into the same shit, like the same bands, and that sort of took things over, and that's when I totally like rejected any of that shit. Like, that's like, that was never my thing, man. I was never into like that regimented world of hardcore music, really. And
Yeah.
so these two guys are talking about how it's like, yeah, it's really weird these days because, I went down and the barista at the coffee shop has like tattoos and, you know, they you can't tell who's who anymore, basically, is what they're trying to say. And like Davey Havoc just kind of like had this like very funny, he didn't say anything to them, but he had this like sort of ironic smile on his face when they said that because they look like everybody. Like those dudes had the same appearance. Anyone could, cops look like that now. A cop looks like a dude who plays in a hardcore band, if you ask me.
Yeah.
And Davey Havoc is on his own trip. And that's like why I think he's an interesting guy. And that's why, like, that won me over into the whole AFI experience. Because I had never considered them anything that I'd be into prior to that, really. Prior to you guys really kind of turning me on to it. Like
Right.
my wife has been like politicking for them for years. Like, oh, they do they got that Misfits record and everything. You loved it. I'm like, I don't know. But then like, we started playing around with these ideas and you guys sold me on it. And then I went to go, the new album came out and I thought it was fantastic. And then we went to the show and it totally blew me away.
Yeah. I think AFI got well, yeah, I mean they were like kind of part of that early 2000s wave of bands like, My Chemical Romance and stuff like that, And a lot of those
From Jersey, My Chemical Romance.
yeah, and a lot of those bands, I think are good, I liked a lot of those bands. So like um but they I think got lumped with that kind of emo brush and whatever, like particularly once AFI got real popular after a December Underground, like I think it put a lot of people off. But I mean, I had been listening to them before that, so like with like Black Sails and those albums. So I don't know, I really liked the kind of darker edge that they had, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah.
The interesting thing is everybody thinks that they blew up around December Underground because of the single Miss Murder and Love Like Winter, which were very, very popular. But Sing the Sorrow,
Yeah, Sing Sorrow
the
was really
single
big.
Girls Not Grey, was actually more successful than Miss Murder. So that's the funny side of it that I always find. Is
Well, I think
everyone
it
thinks, they blew up in December Underground, which maybe they did,
I
like
think
I guess
I guess like
ticket sales or something. But
I guess I would say that because when December Underground came out here, I would say that like you saw those videos like 1,000 times more, like on like video channels or I don't know. Like I heard those songs more just being played around, you know what I mean? Like Um,
Mm.
like you go, if that makes sense. Like to me, it just seemed they kind of hit a more of a peak visibility, even if. But yeah, Sing to Sorrow obviously was where it started. Them getting big. Yeah,
More accessible.
yeah. But I mean,
In that,
I like December Underground. I think it's a good album. So
yeah, I do too. I think it's a great album. I think to me, there's no album of theirs that I don't like, which is always a good sign.
yeah, my favorite ones are post those albums. I really like the Burials album and then the new one. I think those are my two favorite of the kind of post December Underground albums. But I do think they all have they're all good. But those are the two that I like the best. I think because I tend to gravitate to the ones that are darkest. You know,
Yeah,
because like
Crash
Crash,
Love is also very good.
yeah, Crash
They're
Love is
they're
very good, but
they're
it's not
like
quite as dark. Yeah,
for me, they're like chapters in my life. Like each one represents a certain time in my life, and each song on the album makes me think of a certain time. I don't know, probably
yeah,
getting too personal here, but also the same, with the lyrics. Um, like writing these lyrics, I for Hollow Lands, I reread them this morning just for a refresher, and it was like um, traveling back through time to what I was feeling at the time and stuff like that. I guess that's the double-edged sword of doing music, I guess, and writing stuff. But it's all right. It's interesting. It was a interesting realization that I had this morning.
it's a bit more when you're getting a bit more. I guess putting a bit more personal feelings in the lyrics. You know, like a lot of times when we're making black metal lyrics, it's a little bit less personal, if that makes sense. It's like concepts or esoteric stuff or I don't know, like almost inhuman. Like that's the way I approach a lot of black metal lyrics. So it's a totally different feeling. Like when I go and I listen to music that I've written that was more had more personal like elements to it, you know? Like I have a very different experience listening to that than say listening to my black metal stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. But for me as well, my lyrics that I write for Drugoth as well and other bits and pieces, same thing. There's all they're they're almost like the concept in the Harry Potter book series, Voldemort, the villain, how he splits his soul into Horcruxes. I feel like that's what lyrics are for me. Slow, like, and I've written a lot of lyrics, so I split my soul a lot.
Or you know, live on in all of them, you know what I mean?
Hopefully, you know, hopefully. Or when I'm gone, no one will mourn, no one will care. It's just my legacy is within the music. That's sort of the only thing that sort of keeps me going creatively at times. Legacy is very important, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, even like lyrics that aren't like so personal, like Carl, you were talking about how some like black metal lyrics that have more of like this inhuman like element to it, or if it's about like concepts or philosophies or like esoteric stuff. Even like things that I've written that are not necessarily personal. When I listen to them, I still get super nostalgic, man. It's crazy. It's like just recently. I listened to several records that I made like 20 years ago, really at this almost 20 years ago at this point. And Tombs is almost 20 years old, man. So it's like,
That's crazy.
yeah, it is crazy. It feels like the band's been around for like 5 years or something. But like, yeah, I just get like we started that band and where we were living and everything was completely different. Like I've returned to that neighborhood like over the years to go see shows, and it's just like completely different. And it's like we never existed there. You know what I mean? It's like this washed away by the sands of time in some ways. Even it's only been like 20 years, it feels like the remains of like that world that we were in is like that's the only trappings of that left. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like, yeah, I like listen to that stuff and you're just transported back to like the building where our practice space was, and like
Oh yeah, definitely.
different people that were around us at that time, and and then like how at the time you think like this is what life is like. You think you're living that time, and it's like this is what my life is like. But that time lasts for like 3 years, and then something changes. Someone moves away, or your relationship with someone ends, or whatever. You move to a different place, and then like everything is different, and slowly you're in this other atmosphere that's completely different than where you were. And then you look back and it feels like a million years ago, like a million years have passed in that time frame. And it's just that's what listening to like old music I play on, like makes me feel that way, and it has like this very very interesting sort of nostalgic feel to it. And like, there was like another band that I did with Dave Whitty that was called King Generator. And like that was just a project that we just did it. It was like the guitar player from Stack, this dude Jamie Thompson, he wrote all these songs, they recorded them, and I just started playing in Tombs. Like Tombs was maybe been around for like a couple of years, and recorded them all at our practice space, and then the record came out, and it was like just this project, and I've listened to it for the first time in like probably 20 years, man. Like you know, I don't know what possessed me to do that, but like I wonder if it was more like I wonder if this is streaming anywhere, and I listened to the entire thing, man. I was just like, wow, like you're transported back to this like it's like a window into another world almost when you listen to these things.
Yeah,
It's like such a
definitely.
bizarre like feeling sometimes.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, any music that you make is gonna have that kind of quality to it, where you're gonna like remember what you're doing at the time you're writing it, or the time period. I mean, music in general kind of will do that. Like, if there's just something that I've listened to a lot, like, and it really was like solidified into a certain period of time in my life. Anytime you listen to it from that point on, it's going to kind of bring back feelings from that time. Particularly if you don't listen to it very often. Like, there might be something you listen to a shit ton, I don't know, during a certain relationship or something you had. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And then you just stop listening to it for years because of that reason, because it just reminded you of that. Then you might listen to it like 5, 6 years later, and you go, "Oh man!" Like it brings back all these like weird feelings because it's like you don't really feel the same, but you do it, But you still can kind of remember what it felt like, Like
absolutely.
music's like a key element, and they even say that with Alzheimer's, for example, that music is a big thing that can bring back memories for people because it taps like and I even noticed that with my mom, my mother, when she had Alzheimer's, like I'd play certain types of music and kind of bring her out a little bit. You know what I mean? Like,
I lost my dad like a little bit over a year ago, and he had dementia, for a couple of years actually prior to him passing. And like it was so interesting because even towards the end of his life, like he could still remember song lyrics from like, you know, the 50s or 70s or something like that. It was crazy how he would, be in the grips of like whatever he was going through, and then out of nowhere he would sing lyrics to these songs from like the 80s, and I was
yeah.
like, wow, it's like,
Well, I think it's because the part of your brain that connects to like music in that way is one of the last things to go, even with dementia, Alzheimer's, like that somehow like is one of those it kind of gets so like I don't know where it is in your brain exactly. I'm not sure the physiological elements to it, but that's something that I had heard and I read a few studies and stuff like that. So
well, that's
'cause they're
comforting.
yeah, because they're saying like utilizing music and like therapy for like Alzheimer's patients can help, or in general, music can be very helpful for people, period, to get your brain functioning, outside of listening to like AI pop slop, you know what I mean? Like, but I mean, like actual real music, like, is very good for your brain,
That's comforting because it's nice to know. That comforts me to know at the end of my life when I can't remember anything. That's like the only thing I'm going to be able to connect with is music. So I can dig that.
I
Yeah.
hope if I make it that far, and I don't know, I'm slowly losing my memory and my mind. I hope that I can just spontaneously recite some offensive Drugoth lyrics or something.
Yeah, you're like
That'll
in the,
bring me joy.
you're like in the nursing home, and all of a sudden you're
Yeah.
like, what's some of the like what was that real offense? What's the one lyric in the new True Goth album is like, pretty offensive. I remember,
Oh, there's a lot of them.
yeah, something about. I remember we were going when we were going through it. There's a couple with cunt in it. It was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. That'll. It's interesting you talking about that because I work in with the elderly, and I don't know. It's a fine line. Like I like to in my spare time study like elicitation and I guess the word control is something that I use to describe it, but it's not in a negative way. It's all positive. Like it's to benefit both parties. Like I learn information from them and they get happiness out of it, but I try to, it basically benefits all involved, not in a manipulative way, but I, I, I do that a lot because a lot of my clientele have dementia and problems with memory and stuff like that. So a lot of their stories that they tell me they repeat, and I know the answers, but anybody could just sort of answer their stories, like be like, "Oh, you've told me this before, or I know the outcome," but I sort of weaponize it in a way to help them further that memory, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah,
I know the outcome. Like he'll tell me about, a client in particular will tell me about a childhood event of him not having any money or there's no food where he was at all. So he had to like break into the train yard and open up and like jimmy open the train carriages and try to find a train carriage that had food so he could steal it and bring it home for all of his family. And I know like that's the end result of that story, but instead I sort of ask him different questions throughout the conversation to try to get more information out of him, like make his mind dig further. I'll be like,
right.
okay, well, how did you break in? Like, did you cut the fence? Or did you jump the fence? Or did you dig underneath? And what food was it that you were looking for the most? And what was it that you found the most, like food wise or supply wise? And then why was there no food? Was it because of the World War II? Like, because everything was in shortage, or why? And just getting him to sort of branch out from that one singular thought, just to expand his memory. Like he has to sort of, instead of following that one memory path, he's got to go down the side streets to find a different route to that end result.
Right.
But I think that's something similar to the music. Something I get them thinking, and I think that's beneficial more than anything. Sometimes it opens up old wounds, which I'm able to cauterize by changing the subject. But like you were saying before as well, Mike, with old lyrics and old songs that you've written in the past, how it brings you back to a certain time. As you were saying that, it reminded me of old lyrics that I've written years and years ago for projects unknown. But so like rereading the lyrics or re-listening to the music, it's almost like pulling out the stitches and the wound opens up again. But it's interesting. It's
Yeah.
an interesting process.
Yeah, it really is, and it's like just I know the three of us like take this stuff to heart, and I know that it's like very music. It's like not just like some background music to, a soundtrack to like, tearing it up on Friday nights. You know what I mean? It's like there's more, we're all trying to do something that has some kind of meaning to it, and like you have to put yourself into it, and sometimes to go back and like, relive those moments is painful sometimes, you know. And like there's certain even like some riffs. Like I remember playing like listening because like we have these dates coming up and we're playing some old songs. So some songs from you know like older records like Path to Totality and that kind of thing. And I'm like I haven't played them in a while, so I'm listening to the old records and going through the motions of like trying to get myself familiar with the track, the material again. And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember when I played this song for this person. And like, I remember like in my apartment on my guitar playing it for this person. And then like that person's like gone now,
Right.
and you're like, fuck, damn, and it makes you just gives everything this like life is like so fucking fleeting and short and just, so like fragile, and yeah, it's been interesting going back, and revisiting some of the older songs and like getting into that sort of like mindset, and then, and now it's like it's got a whole other life in it now because it's part of a different, pathway now, and it's kind of interesting. And yeah, I don't know, man, like writing lyrics, like writing music, it's just such a, a very conceptual but also a very personal like thing, and I know that the three of us have the same sort of vibes about it, you know what I mean?
Are you guys gonna do something for the 20th anniversary of Tombs?
I don't know if we're going to make it to 20 years, honestly, but I'm taking it one month at a time, man,
You're almost there though.
yeah, I know, but dude, what kind of person would I be to plan that far in advance? You know what I mean?
Right,
I could be
yeah.
dead in how 3 years or whatever,
What, because the band started in what, 2009, so
Yeah, I might not
yeah.
make it, man. You never know. It's like,
Right.
especially
Yeah.
at the rate that people are dying these days, man. It's like fucking. I just lost another friend like last week, man, and you know, like a younger guy, and like so many people I know in the last couple of years are just they're just gone. People. My good friend Rich Hall, like you might have even seen online, like Decibel did a thing about him, and he was just like a guy that everyone knew, and he was a roadie of ours, like not in Tombs, but in one of my other bands, and he promoted shows in New York. He was just like every single in the U.S. Like everyone knew this guy. Like if you toured, you knew him. And I got a I was coming back from Muay Thai one night and like I got a call from a friend and he was just like, I figured you'd want to hear this from one of us instead of seeing it online. And it just said, he passed away. And then another guy, another roadie type dude, like he was like Andrew Garrity, another guy who he just passed away like a month ago. And he was a young man. He was like 39 maybe. If he was 40 years old, that would have been old for him. And once again, I just got a text saying that he was gone and he died in a hotel room on tour.
It's
And
crazy.
and it was not like anything like, it wasn't like he was doing drugs or anything like that. He had some underlying condition and that's it. It was over, and it's like, Blake Harrison died, from Pig Destroyer. Like, dude, like, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why do I get to go on? You know what I mean? It's like, what is it about me that why do I need to be here? It's like I could go just as well as anyone else, and I mean, you're in that age group too, where you're like, I think I was Bill Burr who has like I'm in the drop dead years now. Yeah, it's
But
fucking crazy, man.
one thing that I've kind of one conclusion I've come to with time is that you know, the only real reason to say work out or try to be healthy, stuff like that, is so that you feel better in your day-to-day life. You shouldn't worry about, people worry like work out and all that stuff like to live longer. I'm like, the day my friend Jack always says, like, he quotes this saying from um Franz Ferdinand said after he was shot at. He said, "The bullet that was fired for me, so the bullet that will kill me has already been fired." And Jack takes it as kind of a philosophical thing that, like, from the moment you're born, how you're gonna die is out of your control completely. You have no control over it. Like
Yeah,
you're gonna die because I just see it all the time. You see like somebody who totally healthy their life, neurotic about the whole thing, and they get like lung cancer, like
Exactly.
never. And then somebody who does heroin and smokes cigarettes like William Burroughs till lives to be 100. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's
Well,
just
I was,
there's
yeah.
no telling who or what's going to happen to anybody.
No, I was just being hyperbolic about that. Like, I like, obviously I don't live in fear of any, death or anything. If
Yeah,
anything, like, you know, I don't fear death, to be honest. Like, I think about, you know, seeing people die around me, and experiencing that loss. It's like, I don't really have a fear. Death seems like a very natural thing to me, and like,
yeah,
and so, I mean, I don't, I mean, I do a lot of like physical stuff. I train a lot. I eat well. I
yeah,
don't say that I don't drink, but I very rarely drink alcohol. And it's like, you know, it's got to be like an occasion. You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
not like I go out Friday nights to get shit faced and fucking throw up all over everybody or anything.
Couldn't
And
imagine you. I couldn't not imagine you doing
no, dude, no.
that.
And but it just puts it's like that whole like idea of like nihilism. You think about how like there's nothing, but then it's not, you can take it to feel like there's no meaning in everything, or you can put meaning in your life because that's it. And that's really, I guess I'm on like a sort of accelerated track in that sort of philosophy. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. 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 I wasn't saying that you're worrying about it, but I was just saying that like that's kind of been my perspective on that is that we don't know. So we make plans the best we can, but
Yeah.
that,
Well,
because honestly we got to make plans like because until we die, we got to make plans for the future, and then
yeah.
when we're dead, the plans we made for the future don't matter anymore. So
Oh, totally. No, that was just my sort of like, I was just taking a piss with the idea of doing planning a 20th anniversary right now. I was like, dude,
oh,
I'm planning waking up tomorrow morning. That's the thing I'm planning for. Like the only thing we're really planning for is like,
the 3 years will be here before you know it,
maybe, I can't promise I'm going to be around in 3 years. You never know. And but we're hoping to be around for Halloween because like we have like we're planning to do something pretty cool for Halloween this year. We already have like the date booked and everything. It's like, we're gonna do like a Misfits and Sam Hain like cover set and for once have fun with playing live. You know what I mean? Like everything's like so fucking serious all the time with the band, and like, we're trying to do this like very heavy, like dark, serious tone with everything, that it's actually kind of fun to do something like do a bunch of covers at a show for our friends and hang out and have a good time. It's never been like, that's such an alien concept for me. Like when I go on tour, I don't think about having a good time. I go out about just
yeah.
fucking crushing people every night. You know what I mean? Like I don't think about
Yeah.
like hanging out or any of that stuff. I think about getting in the van, driving across the country and just slaying every single night. That's like the only thoughts I have in my head when I do that. So it's like to go out and do something for fun is a novel idea and also something that's very well needed in my life right now, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, it's a good way to do it, playing Misfits covers and stuff. I mean, Misfits were one of the things that cut my teeth on, like we talked about like a while
Yeah,
ago. I
man.
was like, I learned like so many of the songs, and they're fun to play. Yeah, it's fun to play all. And that's always like whenever a lot of times if I like jam with a new person, like a new drummer or something, like that's like my in the past, like back in the day, like it was like I would pull out like even like when Ken and I started the Silver Chord, which was 20 years ago this year.
Wow.
We
Congratulations, man.
our first
Congratulations.
we're planning. We are going to try to get an EP out this year for 20 years. So finally, after a long ass time. But our first rehearsal, I pulled out like I had written a couple like things, and then I pulled out like Blood Feast, that song from Misfits. We
Yeah,
covered.
man.
We played that to kind of with our drum machine, to try to like add
I
the
like
drum
to hear
machine and
that.
him singing. Yeah,
I like to hear
I think
that.
I have I have a demo of that somewhere. It's real. But I recorded it like literally on like my old four tracked us through like the microphone that was on it, you know?
Yeah.
Like I had this like digital 4 track and I just put that in the middle. And then we had all these like we didn't have a PA because we were just starting. So we had the drum machine run. I had I had three like little like kind of crappy practice amps, like two Rogue amps and this like crappy Fender amp I had. And so I had Ken going through one of the Rogue amps. I had the drum machine going through this Rogue bass amp I had.
Hell yeah.
And it actually doesn't sound. I just kind of like arranged them around the thing, like to try to make it sound okay. So it's pretty. But yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, and
But
out here, like, I'm in New Jersey, and everyone loves the Misfits and Glenn Danzig here. He's like a folk hero, especially if, people who are like, this kind of music, like metal and, punk rock music. Danzig is a folk hero. So that will probably be our biggest attended show, probably, is the coverage
yeah,
set.
yeah. Are you get? Yeah. Isn't I've always heard that the some of the big Jersey guys is like what like in like our world. I mean, obviously, it's like Bruce Springsteen and whatnot, but like of course there's what like Danzig
Eric
and
Rutan.
Eric Rutan,
Yeah.
and then Typo, right? Like with Peter Steele.
Yeah,
Uh,
Typo, Peter Steele is a Brooklyn guy. Eric Rutan is like a South Jersey like dude. He was in Ripping Corpse, which is like an incredible band from back in the day. And of course now he's in Cannibal. And I remember like when Cannibal came here last year with Municipal Waste, which also, features Dave Whitty, another Jersey guy. So like we all went to the show and it was just like their families were there and like it was like so like I saw those guys for like 3 minutes because they were making their rounds with like all their friends and family and everything. It was crazy.
right.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun though. But getting back to Hollow Lands though, it's like this is very fun for me to do this. It's like I like that we're starting something new, and there isn't like these years and years and years of like baggage and you know with the band. It's always nice when something is brand new and, filled with like potential and stuff like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I think that um what was I gonna say? Um it's always nice starting something new and you're trying to figure out what it is and um like I feel like we've kind of set a good blueprint
Yeah.
for future stuff. I'm definitely excited to see what you come up with for like the next like EP, like as far as writing songs. And I do like one thing I definitely want to do, which we talked about doing on these songs, but in the end, I just wanted to get them out. But I definitely want to add some more like keyboard parts and
Oh
things
yeah.
like that into it as well.
Big time.
I could, I
Yeah.
could, I could still hear where they could go on these songs, but I just was like, I just want to get this done and out, like so.
Yeah, I think the next time around we do the whole production in house. I think Drugoth, you were saying that, let's try to do
Yeah,
that. But I think that because like we all know what we want to hear. We've got, even when it comes to just like involving a fourth person, as talented as that person might be, it's like it's not it's easier to communicate this amongst the three of us as we're all writing the songs and like working on the material that we have the concept pretty solid, and it's like I think I'm down with the idea of keeping everything in house like for the next couple things we do.
yeah. I think for the next one, be good. It might be easiest if I'll just mix everything. Matt did an amazing job on these
Yeah,
songs, though. I mean,
yeah, that's great.
it's just a little easier because we're not like having to send files back and forth and like we just have to do it once. You know what I mean? You had to do it a couple times because we had one person that you kind of were like was taking too long, so then we sent it to Matt and
Yeah, it
it
was
was
my
like,
drummer Justin. Yeah, he was.
yeah,
I mean, he's he was working on an EP for his other band Replicant. So Replicant, who's gonna actually on these dates we got coming up,
yeah.
they're on those dates with us, and Justin's playing two sets that night. So which like I don't know if you ever heard their music,
Wow,
but it's
as a
like
drummer.
as a
Yeah.
drummer playing that type of music with that type of complexity and that type of, those types of tempos, is like pretty challenging. So, but yeah, but he was busy with that and,
Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
he,
That's quite a night. Yeah.
yeah. And, rather than say no, he was like, oh yeah, yeah, I'll take care of it, man. Don't worry. And then, I'm like, dude, like I can't wait anymore with this. So then we got Matt involved and Matt did a great job. And, Matt also mixed a Scorpion Throne EP that I just did, and I think that came out great too. So at least his part of,
Yeah.
sounds awesome, I think,
Yeah. That sounds great. I really like that EP. The and yeah, Matt's the kind of the MVP for the whole Legion for all the horsemen,
Oh yeah, yeah, that
like
dude. I don't know how he finds time to sleep, man. Maybe he doesn't sleep, Maybe he's undead. I don't know.
the yeah, like do you feel like so one thing I was gonna was had what for you was like the obviously HoloLens is very different from Scorpion Throne, but it could have been a way that those things could have like almost like do you feel like this might almost like an extension outside of like because Scorpion Throne's kind of doing something slightly similar, but you've gone a bit more raw on black metal of Scorpion Throne than the first EP, you know what I mean? Which I think
Yeah,
was the first Scorpion Throne EP is probably more similar to what we're doing with HoloLens now, you know what I mean?
interesting. Um, well, all right. The main thing is the guitar I use, believe it or not. It's like it's funny how that sometimes is enough to make things different. Like
Yeah.
I have a Scorpion Throne guitar and I have a HoloLens guitar, and they have they're tuned differently. And I Scorpion Throne is like more like shining, depressive black metal with like a Celtic Frost kind of thing. And like HoloLens is for me more like TSOL, Sam Hain, but like heavy and a little bit more metallic than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
I definitely think they're very distinct from each other at this point, but
Yeah.
I guess what I meant is that kind of like particularly that first Scorpion Throne, because I think you've really set Scorpion Throne, like Scorpion Throne's kind of gone down a slightly different path with the second EP, you know.
Yeah. Well,
So,
yeah,
but probably because it's not quite as heavy for you emotionally, you know what I mean?
the first EP was like, a lot of heavy, really bad things happened around that time. And it was like locked away during the pandemic. And I wrote all that stuff by myself. And like, there was like completely fucking isolated, dude. Like, I didn't see a soul. It was like the gym was closed, like no one was doing anything or going anywhere. And the one sort of like connection I had to the world was gone. And that record came out of that experience and those lyrics and everything, and it was like, and I was talking to Andrew about it, and I was like, next, I want to make more of this, man, but I don't want it to be, I don't want to be in that, I'm not going to be in that mindset when we do it again, because it's, a couple of years have
Yeah.
gone by and I'm not like that anymore. And I want to make it more, you know, like still like very dark, but also I want it to be more of like a statement of like, you know, a good, being in a better, more positive mindset and being more like ambitious with it as far as like songs that I'm gonna want to listen to again and like have other people enjoy. Like the first Scorpion Throne,
Right.
I don't even want to listen to it anymore. I don't ever want to listen to that again, and I don't care if anyone liked it or not. It was like just put it out there in the world because I had to like, throw that bottle into the ocean with this like horrible fucking note in there. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
yeah, but like now it's like a band. Now it's like a thing that I enjoy doing, and it's like that last EP I had a lot of fun making it. And I was able to see people. Me and Mike went down to the practice space and like, we like kicked our vocals down there and it wasn't done just in complete fucking darkness like the first EP was, And
Yeah.
but with what we're doing with HoloLens, like it's like it's fun, it's like it's collaborative, and I like the collaboration. Because like I said earlier, that it's like I just respect and like trust you guys with creative decisions and creative input. And I think that, I mean, especially like, it's funny because like the arrangements, there was a couple of subtle things that I was like, when I heard Drew Gott's ideas about how they wanted to change the arrangements, I was like, okay. I would have never thought to do that, but that one little tweak changed everything. And it was so fucking cool. And like, that's what I mean. If I had been operating within my bubble, I would have never made those changes. And I think the song would have suffered from that, you know?
Yeah.
You know
Yeah,
what I'm
my
talking
little
about?
OCDs.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
dude,
Yeah.
you made that one modification of how that riff was played, like in that part of the verse, and I was like, oh yeah, of course, this makes complete sense to me now.
Are
Yeah.
we talking about um
Was it song two, right? Or is it song one? I can't remember.
It's
I
like
think it
when
might
when
have
the
been
vocals come in, it's like instead of going
yes.
like the descending with the vocals starting. This is gonna be funny, especially if anyone hasn't heard this yet. It's like that part changed everything and made it sicker. And I was like, well, of course, this makes complete sense, you know?
I
Yeah.
think maybe it's because um, I can only speak for myself, but I think because we're all a part of several other projects and we're all musicians, I guess ourselves, um, we know. I don't know. Like the way I can explain it is like we all write music in its entirety. Like we don't just write, oh yeah, the guitar parts. We all pay attention to all of it, like the guitar parts, the bass parts, the drums, the vocals, the structure, and stuff like that. That's almost, it's a blessing and a curse because, sometimes we might butt heads on it, but I don't know. To me, it just seemed like we were able to weaponize that part because it was basically, it's when you sent it through. I think that might have been some of the confusion when we were talking about it. Um, I You couldn't really understand what I meant by the high part and the low
Yeah,
part, like
exactly. Yep.
because to you it was all just one riff, wasn't it?
It was. And
But
like that's interesting though, that like, when you work with someone else, they have a different perspective on it. But now when we finally were able to figure it out, it made sense.
yeah, so to me, when I listened to it, I heard it as two separate riffs. So
Yeah. I kind of heard it that way
weaponizing
too.
that, and
Yeah.
then the when the notes ascend, to me that was like riff one, so it could be like a, I'll use the term chorus, but yeah, it could almost be like a chorus, and then riff two where it descends down is more like the verse riff where the main vocals would be. So it was almost like, yeah, dissecting the riff itself and the music to create a pattern within the pattern. And yeah, I think it turned out pretty cool. I
Yeah.
think
No.
there was we the communication on my end was probably not great, but we figured it out in the end, which was all that matters.
Well, yeah. No, no. I mean, we got on a call, I think, and like sorted it out, and it's perfect. That was great. It's like that's the thing. It's like, figuring out. I'm a problem solver. That's what I do for my job. Solve problems. And it's
Y-
like, you know, I I like to like get down into it and figure out the path forward. So it's good.
Do you want,
I know I
you know how you
definitely am a problem.
the one thing that's funny I was thinking about is that talking how like for you is like a novel thing doing these different vocal patterns and lyrics that Drew Goth came up with. For me, it's a novel thing playing somebody else's riffs for the most part. Like
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I've only done it once in all the stuff that the Drew Goff have done. Like he wrote one of the songs for the Black Flame Altar album that no one's heard yet that will be out fairly soon. And so it was and it was his and his riffs and mine are fairly similar, and the way they're played was pretty easy for me to get down. But for me, like learning how you put together your riffs and the song was like very, in some ways, very different from how I do. So it was kind of like, it was a novel experience for me trying to like, okay, how do these parts go? It wasn't like it was hard, but it was just kind of like a different thing. You know what I mean? Because the way you'd transition from riffs and stuff was very different from how I would. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
no, totally, man. I mean, that's what's good about doing all this stuff. It's like, you know, like even though I was telling you how like Justin and I are like collaborate, and even actually on the last Tombs album, Drew wrote a lot of material, our bass player. But we all kind of think the same way though at this stage. So it's not like, like even those guys' quirks and what they do,
Yeah,
like when
you're
they
used to
write,
it
I
now.
already know what they're doing. Like, I've already been doing this with these dudes for many, many years at this point. And I'm like, it's part of like, oh, that's a Justin thing or that's a Drew thing, you know?
Yeah.
Like Justin loves these like chromatic, like sort of riffs, you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, it's one of his things. So that it goes like this, you know? But when I completely love getting really out of the box like this, man, and it's like, it's just really positive as a creative person, as a musician or whatever artist, whatever you want to fucking say about it. It's like, to get, it just expands like your vocabulary of stuff, I'm sure now I'm going to start ripping off stuff that you do and stuff that Drugoth does. And it's gonna, you guys will just be another source for me to plagiarize like ideas from now.
Well, it's going to be that aspect too of like, as we do this a bit more, we're all gonna get to know, like I'll like really figure out, okay, this is how Mike puts together, I'll get that down and I'll go, hey, be like, even quicker for me putting the bass parts, like, cause I'm like, okay, cause I could hear even like a similarity in the way that you put structure your riffs in Tombs or the other bands. Like from listening to your music, I'm familiar, but it's a little bit different playing some of these riffs and just listening to it. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
but eventually, and then like also like how we communicate with um, like like Drew Goff and I have been making music together now for what, a couple years. So like we kind of gotta, for most part, we know how to communicate to each other about stuff. And that's kind of another part of music too, is just like after a little while you just kind of figure each other out and you're like, okay, yep, like, this is like how it becomes this more like when you first start something, it's a little bit more like figuring out
yeah.
how each other work. You know what I mean?
Well, that's kind of why I think starting off with like a single like this is good. You know what I mean? Like we got these
Yeah.
two tracks and like, it's like this is like the kind of idea, and then next time around we're gonna do like 4 or 5 songs and like we'll just expand on
And
sort of the groundwork that we laid on this on the single.
I weirdly think
yeah, that
these
was kind
two
of,
songs like worked really well, which
yeah, like back to back.
it's not that I wasn't expecting it, but in my mind it was like, okay, this is a new project. I don't really know what it's going to be. Like in my mind, I have an idea of what I want it to be, and I'm sure you guys also did. Like we all sort of agreed on, I guess, the influences, or had similar influences and direction, but I wasn't expecting it to sort of click together as easily and as well as it did, um, to the point where I guess, with everything, there's always, I'm a bit of a perfectionist to an extent when it comes to releasing stuff, but I've said it to you before, Carl, where if there's something I don't like, I will chirp up about it, because if I don't like it, it'll shit me off that much to the point where I won't want to release it. Like
Yeah.
even if it's just real minuscule stuff, but there's nothing in these two songs that I don't not like.
Yeah,
So
no.
that's a good thing. That's a rare thing for me. there's always something where I'm like, oh, I wish this was a little bit different, or I wish this was like that, or something like that. But for these two songs, it's yeah, there's nothing that I'm like, oh, I hate that, or I wish this was like that. It's I learn little bits and pieces as we sort of went along, and it made me appreciate them more. Like just little details, like I think it's in the bass pickups. Carl must have said something
Yeah.
or made a noise, and we kept it in at the start, and it's just unusual, but I think it would be weird if it wasn't there now.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it too. I think Carl said shog in the beginning.
Oh, did
Uh,
he?
no,
I
I
don't
didn't. I was. I'm not gonna reveal what I said at the
Yeah.
beginning. I was like talking to myself when I was trying to record it, and it just picked me up. So
I
I was
think he
getting
said
because I was getting annoyed, like because I was like kept like fucking up. So,
fucking shog.
but
It's
Then
awesome.
yeah,
even at in song two, um, I don't know if anyone, I don't know if you guys have noticed it, but I did, because I'm insane and I listen to it very, very loud, and every detail, and I break down every single thing that's happening. Like I'll listen to the whole song and I'll pay attention to nothing but the hi-hat cymbal, just weird shit. And then I wonder why I
that's a
can't
drummer thing.
sleep at night. Yeah.
It's a drummer thing. No, drummers are definitely very think that, you
Yeah,
know.
totally.
But at the beginning of song two, um, the song Black Pledge, uh, I'm assuming that it's you, Mike, but there's a inhale right before the song starts. And
Probably.
I don't know if you guys have heard it, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
right at the beginning.
I don't know who, I don't know. I would assume it's probably Mike because I don't think that I recorded anything like from beginning,
No, it
from the
had to
start
be
of it.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, there's like a little bit of like feedback, grainy noise for about 2 seconds maybe, and then really subtly right before the first riff starts, there's a little, yeah, inhale, and little details like that. I pick up everything.
So
Nothing goes under my radar.
I like having all the kind of raw details or elements and stuff like that, I think it's cool because it's, a lot of so much modern music is so like hyper cleaned up where they cut everything down to just where, like, say a vocal track, they'd cut only just where the vocals are, stuff like that. You leave everything else out. Like, it's kind of nice to have something where it's like, you know, little things are kind of left in, you know what I mean?
Definitely. Yeah. It's like two of my favorite albums, like old school like records, is Black Flag, My War, and also Zen Arcade by Husker Du.
Yeah, Zen Arcade, it's great.
Yeah,
So is My War.
and it's like it sounds like this track, like the recordings of those songs, it sounds like they're just in a room feeding back already.
Well, I
And they
think they
just
were.
right, I know that's what I'm saying, but like
Yeah.
that vibe is captured
Yeah.
where they're all just standing in a room and the guy just, Spot just hits play and record and there's already like all this ambience there. They just go for it.
Yeah, I love that.
And it gets kind of a similar vibe on Zen Arcade too, where it's like, well, that whole album was recorded over one night. I don't know if
Yeah.
yeah, like they just did a bunch of cocaine and like light blazed through the entire record and vocals, everything was done almost like one take. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it was done in like one day, basically 1, 2 days. Like that's all
Yeah,
time they had. Yeah.
that's insane, and that's like the double album. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that sort of like immediacy, it's like, and in the last 10 years, man, 15, however long Tunes has existed, it's like that's I've fallen into that whole, click track triggers, like fucking everything super edited, everything cleaned up and everything. Except for our last album, actually. That one is a little bit more raw, but everything
Yeah.
prior to that was like super, cleaned up. And I like the more raw approach You know what I mean? It's like really nice to get back into that.
It seemed like to you that that was, from what I've seen, a lot of people, because I mean the Tombs album I told you is like on pretty much everybody's list that I had on my podcast, and for the most part, and the production came up a lot because it seemed like that kind of raw production people noticed and liked, because I guess it gave it a bit more edge to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. And it's like you know, prior records were looking more for this modern sound, I guess, or whatever. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
but like the newer one, Feral Darkness was just like, yeah, just wanted to just descend, man, just fucking get into that abyss of fucking just dark fucking energy, And I think the approach for recording it was perfect for that.
Speaking of Husker Du, have you ever read the biography about them?
I haven't, no.
It's a good one to read. I'll have to send you a picture. I don't remember what the name of it is off the top of my head, but it's cool, cool biography. They're a cool band. I like all their albums actually, because they never really put out a bad one. They were
No.
kind of people. It was funny though, in the because their guitar tone was so harsh and like just like very black, almost black metal guitar tone.
Yeah.
People compared Bathory to Husker Du when Bathory came out because they're like the same guitar tone, basically.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's I think like even like I mean some of my guitar tone, I have like the chorus, that chorusy guitar sound.
Yeah,
And I mean I love that stuff. And a lot of it is because of Husker Du, like Bob Mould's guitar tone on those records I think was great, and like they're like one of my favorite bands from that era. Them and Black Flag, I think, are like the two standouts from, that SST war, era, the late 80s, early 80s era.
yeah, yeah. But for me, yeah, it'd be Black Flag, Husker Du, the first couple Dinosaur Jr. albums from the later SST. Because I've never really gotten like Minutemen or Meat Puppets
Yeah,
particularly.
yeah.
But didn't they sign St. Vitus? St. Vitus was
St.
cool.
Vitus had some stuff on
Yeah.
SST. I mean, it's funny about the Minutemen. The Minutemen are like more like I like the idea of that band. I like the personalities in it. I like the sort of lore about them, and the music is like very nostalgic for a certain era of my life. But they just didn't resonate with me the way like Black Flag and like Husker Du did. Like Black Flag's whole everything about them, their tone, the songs, the fucking vibe, like the dark like artwork from Raymond Pettibone,
Yeah.
Everything just about that band hit me in a way that was like, this is like how exactly I feel at age 16. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was like just so fucking negative and like alienated from everything. And it was like just through my whole life, I could spend, like, especially only the Rollins era. Like I know a lot of people want to fool themselves into thinking that Keith Morris was great in Black Flag, but he wasn't. Keith Morris was great in the Circle Jerks. He wasn't great in Black Flag. Rollins
No.
was great in Black Flag.
Yeah. I think well, Henry Rollins was definitely the best Black Flag vocalist, and outside of him, what's his
Dez,
name? Dez
Dez
was the
Katina.
second best. Yeah. Like
Yeah,
I like his stuff better than
Dez was good more for like the hardcore stuff. Like I think like
yeah.
Depression, that was like kind of he shined more like in that era of the band.
Yeah. One thing that I thought was funny, you were talking about earlier about Davey Havoc and how he's kind of keeping like the weirdo punk side thing, like like just like the fact that that's kind of like my friend Jack who was from that time period, Jack Jensen. I mean,
Hmm.
from the late 70s. He's part of that group. That was like his whole concept. Punk is like you got to be it's not political movement or anything like that. It's more like an artistic movement of being like weirdo and all that stuff. And I think of Black Flag, the rebellion of bands like Black Flag and Husker Du against hardcore in the 80s. Like,
Yeah.
but middle of everybody shaving their head and like wearing their white sneakers, Black Flag was like, fuck that, we're gonna grow our hair out long, wear bell bottoms.
Yeah,
Like,
it was awesome.
know.
Rollins looked like Charles Manson, sort of like with the beard and
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And Husker Du is kind of the same way. They totally like just dressed they didn't look anything like. They actually looked more like metal, like because they're metal guys, really. So they were like dressed like metal guys a lot of times in their earlier days. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's awesome, But
Yeah,
also like with hardcore, like hardcore was like a like a dude scene, and which is like, when I was a kid, man, like I got to be honest, like I knew a lot of really, really cool girls that got me into really cool music when I was younger. And, they were more like, you know, into like art and interesting music and then like I feel like hardcore like kind of ruined like a lot of that stuff where it just became this like, fucking bro like thing, And yeah, it just and then it was never my thing, man. Like I just yeah, I wore a champion sweatshirt when I went to wrestling practice, but it wasn't part of like, my wardrobe, or fucking
yeah.
that just wasn't my thing, man. I was more with like weird like weirdo music.
Well, even like guys, obviously like guys like Ian Mackey and stuff, they also were hated that hardcore turned in that too. Like, yeah, he's kind of kicked it off with Minor Threat, but then he's like got sick of the whole thing and was like, we're gonna do Embrace and Guy
Yeah.
Picadio with Guy Rites of Spring. It was all about like, rebelling against that kind of codified hardcore, which of course, it's like I just think that that's kind of more like what punk was supposed to be, I think, is like just, like, yeah, like not this codified thing. And, like there's some hardcore that's cool, like MDC and a bunch of stuff, but I don't listen to it very often anymore. I listened to it a little bit when I was like 14, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I went straight up from listening to like Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, and AC/DC, and then like one summer I got into like punk, and then like from the punk stuff into like thrash and black metal, like Slayer and then Metallica, and then, the Bathory Venom stuff came to me through this like college radio station that I would get like in the area. And yeah, there was just like these like I said, is I was into like hard rock and heavy metal, and then these cool like punk chicks I met got me into like cool music, and
Yeah.
started wearing black, and all that kind of stuff.
I was always really attracted when it came to, and I'm, so I definitely like more old school punk than say like hardcore personally,
Yeah, yeah, me
but
too.
um some of those bands, like I always was really attracted to a band like Rudimentary Peni, for example, with like the
Oh yeah,
super
man.
dark artwork. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Like Death
Yeah.
Church
Death
is
Church. Yep.
and Cacophony, which is all about H.P. Lovecraft,
Yep.
even like Crass, like I always liked the imagery of Crass, like the kind of like, even though it's like political, they're very political, is also very just kind of like weird, dark stuff going on as well, Or Subhumans UK, in our band. Subhumans UK though, they got kind of metal too. They started going down some of their later in the 80s started sounding like Black Sabbath. They probably influenced by Black Flag some, I don't know, but
What's kind of funny though is a lot of those bands had their metal album, like even a band like SSD Control,
yeah.
like they made one record that sounds like fucking AC/DC, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like, they had a metal record, and then like all those, then of course like a lot of the New York hardcore bands were like metal bands, like fucking Agnostic Front and the Cro-Mags, which I like. I mean, I like Cro-Mags, I like Agnostic Front, like that early stuff was cool,
Yeah. I do, yeah.
because I like metal. It's not because it was like, oh, this is a great, punk record, though yeah, Age of Quarrel is a good punk record, but it's also a good metal record too.
Yeah. One album that I really like that's kind of in the one-off but super cool kind of dark era of a band was Horror Epics from The Exploited. That's probably my
Yeah.
favorite Exploited album, and it's like kind of bordering on like punk, like or post-punk, I mean, like and like like metal at times even. Like that's a sick album.
I think like the Brits definitely got it right. Like even like Discharge, like
Oh yeah, I love
their
Discharge, yeah.
Discharge is a fucking punk band, but they work as a metal band too. You know?
Yeah, for me like the D beat stuff I really love when it comes to punk. I love
Yeah.
Discharge and Conflict and all that kind of stuff. And that's probably why I do tend to like a lot of British bands like Subhumans UK or The Exploited, stuff like that. And of
Right.
course those are bands that
GBH.
Yeah, and those are bands that are big, huge influences on like Bathory. Like
Yep.
Corazon always talked about how much he loved Exploited and GBH and all that kind of stuff, you know. Like he wanted to kind of combine that and Motorhead and Black Sabbath
Sounds
together.
fucking a winning combo if you
And
ask me, man.
thus is born, you know, in my opinion, the first true black metal album is Bathory's self-titled album, you know. Like I like Venom, but I don't think that even though they have the album called Black Metal, I don't think it's 100% black metal in the same way the first Bathory album is, you know what I mean? So,
I back that statement. I mean, Venom, like when I was a young kid, I thought Venom was like, the evilest thing ever, man, because it's like they had the sick, like, like that imagery was cool, the name of the band, like, you know, their whole thing was like evil, and I was like
yeah.
really into that. But as time went on, you start seeing the limitations of what they were doing and how it was kind of just like, in some ways taking a piss, but it still was like important music to me when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, and I never take away the importance of Venom just in general. You know, Venom big influence on Slayer and Metallica and all
Yeah,
these
big time.
bands. And I like the first four Possessions not has some good songs too. Like the first four Venom albums, I think are all pretty sick. It's just like there's still like one foot in new wave of heavy metal,
Yeah.
British heavy metal more. You know what I mean? Where I think the first Bathory album is like black metal, like in
Well, the
its
whole
full form. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
the whole vibe was there with Bathory. You know what I mean? Like the rawness, like even the fact that it was like just Quathorn doing the whole thing himself was like,
Yeah, if it's
um,
like a drummer, yeah.
yeah, it was like a blueprint for like Burzum and all this other stuff that came later. But like hardcore though, like I started, I kind of came around back around to that music like with like Poison Idea and like Rorschach and bands like that.
Oh, yeah, Poison
You know,
Idea is sick. Yeah,
because there's just something off about that band, which is that I loved about it. Like it wasn't like they were dark fucking dudes. You know what I mean? There was like a dark vibe to them because they were dark motherfuckers.
yeah, they're pretty fucked up guys, right?
Yeah, dude. And that's what I mean. They weren't like living in the suburbs and like writing songs about unity and straight edge and stuff like that. It's like these guys were like, in a dark path in their lives. And like, I don't know, like that stuff to me, that resonated more with me than like positive shit. Like
Yeah,
I never felt positive. Like especially when I was a kid, I never saw the bright side to any of this shit. And it's like the music was a reflection of what I was attracted to is a reflection of just like, being fucking frustrated and like, you know, wanting to like fucking destroy everything.
yeah, yeah, and it came to kind of newer style hardcore in the '90s. I mean, I really like Integrity and
Yeah, integrity's sick. Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of band. You know, oh God, that kind of stuff is sick as fuck. So, you know,
Yeah.
but again, it's super dark, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's what I mean. Like there's songs like the lyrics weren't about like the scene or like eating vegetables or whatever. You know what I mean? It was like,
Yeah,
yeah, like that dude Dwid was into like a lot of like cool like esoteric stuff and the process church and all that kind of like Manson-esque stuff.
yeah, exactly. I mean, that to me, I don't know. I get put off on punk when it gets like too positive and then too like political screed. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like where it's just propaganda for some one political side or another. I'm just like, just don't relate to it at that point. You know what I mean?
One of the most perfect bands to combine like punk and metal was like I Hate God, actually, I think. Like that is a one of a kind band. Like no one will ever capture the true essence of fucking negativity like that band. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One
And
thing I love is my friend told me he saw them and they had like a whole part where it was just feedback, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
they,
yeah.
I love that. Yeah. And they just constantly feedback before every song,
Yep.
like as soon as they turn on their pedals. I'm all about that. I think that's sick.
Yeah, I've seen them. I don't know how many times, dude. We played many shows with them in two different bands that I played in, and we did like dates together, and we played many cities together. And they're just one of the scariest band earlier on in my life. one of the scariest bands I've ever been around. And then they mellowed a lot over the last few years, and like, Mike Nine's like a little bit more, he's healthier now, and it's just like, you know, but
The,
super, super, super smart guy, very intelligent, like into like cool ideas and books and everything. And but like the first time I ever saw them was like you it was like G.G. Allen and Black Flag and fucking Sabbath and like all these like feelings, like together, and you really felt like you're watching this like criminal element or something. That's the thing that was like so fucking dark and just evil. And yeah, it was great. I saw them. They toured with Neurosis on one of the Through Silver and Blood tours, and it was Dead and Gone, I Hate God, and Neurosis. I went to the show, and like I hate I hate God. Did I say I said I hate God? Right? I was like, yeah,
yeah,
Dead
yeah,
and God, I Hate God, and Neurosis, right? And I Hate God. It was the best time I'd ever fucking seen them, man, ever.
yeah.
Like they were like incredible, right? And I was like, fuck, like Neurosis is gonna play next. I'm like, how's that gonna happen, man? I just saw the greatest band in the world.
Right,
But then I saw the greatest band in the world perform that night. And
right.
it as great as I Hate God was, Neurosis completely erased any memory I had of them playing by like how great they were.
Yeah,
And that show was like fucking transformational for me, man. It was like I felt like something changed in my life after seeing that, man. It was incredible.
yeah. You just like put on another path in life.
Absolutely, dude. Because at the time I wasn't even living anywhere. I was like living on someone's couch at the time too, and I was just like, okay, I'm in this like took like some. It was like a Nietzschean moment in my life where I would like hit like some new low in my life, and I was like, okay, now it's time to like become the overman. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Drugoth, Mike and I have been talking about like kind of our history of punk. Like what I was like, what is kind of like where did you I know you kind of started off like playing punk stuff, right? Like in punk band, hardcore bands and stuff. But right?
Yeah, that's where I originated, I guess. Um, Started playing in hardcore bands and finding hardcore music. For me, hardcore was probably early 2000s.
Right.
So like my hardcore is like Madball, Terror, Hatebreed, like the tough guy shit, and then all the stuff that you love, Carl. And then I went down the rabbit hole and discovering other stuff, but I was never really drawn to. Uh, I don't know. There's always like a lot of sort of weird sort of shit coming out at that time as well, and that never really appealed to me very much. Like when I say weird stuff, I mean like I don't know. It was like popular bands, like they'd go through stages. Like Trash Talk was a really big thing in my area, and they're a cool band. I guess they're more a punk band than like a hardcore band, but those lines blur. And I was drawn to that sort of style a lot. But then there was bands like Ceremony, and I don't know, I can't think of another example, but yes, Ceremony was just the standout one where I don't know, it was really strange. It was really, really popular in the hardcore scene over here, and I just didn't get it, and I didn't want to get it.
Yeah.
Like it seemed like it wasn't what I wanted to be a part of, which was strange. Um, yeah, I don't know. It just wasn't for me. And during all of that time, like I was listening to a lot of Madball and Hatebreed and like Terror and stuff like that. And then through that, discover bands like Marauder.
Oh, dude, Marauder rules. Yeah.
Marauder is unreal. But the weird thing was, like, I would listen to that, or someone showed me Master Killer, and I was like, yeah, this is sick. This sounds like Slayer. And the person that showed me it was like, oh no, I don't like Slayer. I was like,
That's the,
well,
the most ironic thing. I've heard that so many times from people
yeah.
that like that kind of music, like hardcore.
Yeah.
And then I just, well, if you don't like Slayer, I don't like you. So pretty much. And I don't know, to say that is just, it's insanity to me. Like,
What
especially if you say, oh yeah, Marauder's cool, but I just don't like Slayer. But that
is
doesn't make, I
is weird.
understand, like people have opinions and stuff, but like that opinion is wrong.
I don't
But
get that
yeah,
with like the hardcore people where they're like listen to music that basically sounds like Slayer and then they're like, I don't really like metal or Slayer. But you're like, you're listening to basically metal. You idiot.
Dude,
yeah, I
straight
don't
up,
know.
man. Like Marauder is like they have like double kick. There's like guitar solos. It's like
Yeah, there's like dive bombs and shit, like whammy bar solos, yeah, like Slayer solos,
yeah, exactly.
yeah. But I don't know, they're sick. I don't care. And then during that time, I went through a bit of a learning experience where I don't know. I guess I accepted it at an early age. I like what I like, and that's it. You know what I mean? Like I found Behemoth and like I guess more extreme metal, and I just kept going down the rabbit hole. And yeah, Behemoth is um, not so much anymore. I've discovered other things, but at the time they were like my favorite band, and this was around like Demigod and the Apostasy era,
Yeah,
and
Those are
they were
solid
at their height
records,
back
man.
then, yeah.
Yeah.
like good ass like like dark black metal with good production, and I just loved it. And it was really strange because like I would always just be called like you know metal, like a metal dickhead and stuff like that, and all that shit, like, oh, you can't understand what he's saying, and there's no, I don't know, catchy riffs. And I was like, what, you gotta like listen to it, there is. But I don't know, it's just funny. And then those people um who would call me out on that stuff when the Satanists came out, it was a very popular band. They were a very popular band with the Satanist, and all of a sudden, those people that were giving me shit were like, "Oh yeah, you going to Behemoth?" Like, I was like,
Ah,
"Yeah." Like, but that just proved to me, like, you know, who's in it for the right reasons. Like, you guys are tourists, you know,
Yeah, and who's a
and
poser?
yeah, kinda. And then same thing, like a lot of things, like, I found uh, straight edge when I was like 15 is when I sort of learnt of it, and then I decided to take that journey when I was 16. And when I sort of did, um, make the life adjustment and the claim, um, a lot of people who were straight edge as well, like doubted me, and said, "Oh, you won't last, 6 months," and stuff like that. And then it's funny, same thing. Once again, all of those people who said that are now sort of like drug addicts and drug dealers and alcoholics and stuff like that. And each to their own. Like, it doesn't bother me because it's their choice, their life. Like, I don't care. But yeah, I don't know. I just find it funny. They're all the ones that said I wouldn't sort of last. And now I have been straight edge for like 18 and a half years. And I don't know, it's funny. I guess I'm a very spiteful person. You tell me I can't do something, I'll do it. So yeah, I don't know. But it's funny. Like you were saying, punk, like nowadays there's not too much really that I enjoy. Like, there's a band out of I think Victoria in Australia, that I heard maybe last year. Um, they're called Informant. They released a demo and a 6 inch, I think, and they were cool as fuck. And they're just a punk band, you know, like D beat sort of stuff. And I like D beat bands like Wolf Brigade
Oh yeah,
and
Wolford is awesome. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Wolf Brigade's killer. And there's a band, they're not around anymore. They did 2 albums and then quit. They were out of the US somewhere, maybe San Francisco. I don't know, but they were called Atrament.
Oh
And
yeah,
that's like,
you turned me on to them actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
those two albums, I think they're the perfect combination of dark, eerie, hateful, like sort of black metal essence, but they're just D beats. And I don't know, I just think that's the perfect example of what, to me, like, I guess using a subgenre like blackened D beat or something. I don't know, I've just never really heard it executed like that.
Yeah.
And you know, to me they were perfect. And it's kind of a cool thing, like they called it quits, 2 albums, see you later. Like they didn't give themselves a chance to put out anything bad, so I respect them in that way.
Yeah, I think nowadays, today, like I don't know anything about like the modern punk scene at all, but outside of like those kind of black metal adjacent type of bands like Wolf Brigade and Attrament, those kind of bands, like they're basically doing D beat, um, but like are essentially black metal like adjacent in their themes and stuff like that, That's pretty much I did, and like some of the slightly newer bands I've gotten to were more of like the Swedish bands, like, but they're not all of them were that new, like, but they're like from like, the past new for me is like the past 20 years, you know what I mean?
I'm
Like,
really hit and miss with it though. Like I don't know, like even like that black and thrash subgenre, like there's some bands in that where to me, you know, on paper, I should really like that sort of stuff. But I don't know, I just this it's really hit and miss. It's either I really like it or it's shit. I don't know. It's not shit, it's just I don't know, maybe they lean too much in the uh I don't know, maybe the thrash style that I'm not really fond of. Like I don't know. Like I'm trying to think of the band's name. Is it Hell Ripper?
yeah,
Like
I don't like them very
I don't
much.
know. I don't like them. Like they're good at what they do and it's just it's not dark enough for me maybe. And
Yeah,
but then there's bands like there's a band called Destructo. Um I think they're from Amsterdam. Basically anything that that Dying Victims record label puts out, I'm drawn to. Like Bone Hunter is another one. They're really good. It's like I don't know what you'd call it. Maybe black and thrash, but it's more towards the like the black metal side of it. Yeah, they're
I
much more up my alley.
I think the thing with black thrash is that it has to align more with the black for me, like in the sense that how 80s black like kind of proto black thrash stuff was like, you know what I mean? Where it's like because when you get into late 80s, like a lot of late 80s thrash, when all the bands started talking about like politics and the environment and stuff, like their music also kind of changed, started sounding more like I always think is because of Justice for All, like really changed it, and all of a sudden all the bands wanted to sound like that album, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like super
Like,
progressive, like
yeah.
yeah.
Like think of Sacrifice, for example. Like fucking love the first Sacrifice album, which is basically like a black thrash album. But by their third album, they're trying to be a progressive, you know, band talking about politics and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that loses me too, man. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to hear about that stuff really.
Well, it's just the way. It just to me, I just found it kind of like, okay, dude, like 2 albums ago, you guys were like talking about Satan and stuff, and now you're like gonna try to like You know, and a lot of those bands, it's just boring. They all sound exactly the same after. So it was like the weird. I was like, when I went on a real deep dive in like late '80s thrash, like when you start realizing that all those bands just started sounding the same as each other. You know what I mean? Like, and they're all going after the same trends. And you start realizing that the whole trendy metal thing, like you see if like metalcore and stuff, was like just as alive in the late '80s as it was any other time. It's always some things never change. You know what I mean? People just put
Yeah.
the like rose tinted glasses on some of that stuff back then, but when you go through and you listen to a whole shit ton of those bands, you start like you get kind of sick of it after a while. But you know, to me, the black thrash stuff though is good. Like um, I just think that it has to have that rawness, I guess, that edge to it. That's why I like R noir and stuff like that because it's got that kind of unhinged raw edge. And I think if you're gonna do black thrash, I think you kind of need to have that element to it. You know what I mean?
No,
It's
totally.
funny, like you said. I think when you were talking about "I Hate God" and how they just had like um, in between songs and stuff, like just feedback and painful noise. That's something Shog and I made sure that we adopted into our live set when we played Death Horde live. We
Yeah.
played our first show last weekend,
Yeah, I wanted to
and
ask you about that. That's actually, I've only seen obviously the videos, man. It sounded fucking awesome.
yeah, we were the first band on the lineup, which is fine. You know, it's all about, for me, life is about perspective. Like some people would look at that and be like, "Oh, I'm the first band. No one's going to be here to see us." You know, no one cares about the opener band. But I just invert that and say, "I'm the first band." I'm trying not to sound like an arrogant asshole here, but it's like, "I'm the first band. Good luck to all the bands playing after me."
Yeah.
Nice.
That's the
And
attitude to have though.
kind of, yeah. And that was literally our thought process. And I don't know. There's a huge fuck around with the sound guys. Like, I don't know. But I told them several times, like, this is just, this is war metal. We don't care. Like, don't mic anything up. I don't care. Like, just let us play type of thing. And apparently my vocal mic wasn't as loud as Shog's, but doesn't matter. Like, I think I made my point by just yelling at everybody. Same thing. Like, there's a lot of uh, thought out structure to everything that we did. Like the set list, we were only given, I think, 25 minutes to play, which is fine. Um, we chose to finish at 20 minutes, and between every song and at the start of every song, there was just extremely painful feedback, and
That's awesome.
there was no communication with the crowd at all.
Yeah.
I decided the night before that between every song, I would just stand up and just like stare blankly at. Everyone thought, because I wear sunglasses when I play, because Death Horde is basically a blasphemy worship band, and I was just staring at Nathan of Gravia, to be honest, like between every
Nice.
song. But I've heard from a few people, they were like, "Why the fuck were you staring at me?" Like, which was good. Like, they couldn't pinpoint who it was that I was staring at, so that was good. And yeah, kind of like Carl. I don't think you would know, but Mike, you might know. You know how Alex Piera, um, like when he's in the cage, like
Yeah.
before the fight, he's just staring blankly, like soulless
Yeah.
at his opponent. That's pretty much what I was just doing between every song.
That's awesome, man.
Just
Love
no emotion, just yeah. But yeah, it was cool. I overheard someone say, um, they're like, "What the fuck is that guy's problem?" Like, I don't know
That's the
that
best,
guy.
man.
Like, I felt so intimidated. I was like, perfect. That's
What's that guy's
exactly what I
problem?
wanted.
Yeah.
That's exactly the outcome I wanted. Yeah, but no, it was
See,
fun.
one thing I can't stand is you go to a black metal show and like the band like talks to the audience and it's like, "How's it going tonight?"
Nah,
Whatever. I'm like, they're playing evil music. Like, don't fucking break the illusion and be like, "Hey, how's it going? It's a good, jolly good time." Like you're fucking Frank Sinatra or some shit. I don't
Oh,
know,
you mean
man.
like going to see Immortal or something like that?
Yeah, like you go see like a fucking black metal band. Like seeing like 1349 and all of a sudden Raven was like, "Hey, Denver, how's it going?" He doesn't do that shit, you know what I mean?
Were
'Cause
you
they
at
they
that? Were you at the show in Denver that we played with them?
yeah, I was at that
Yeah,
show.
yeah. I think we
Yeah.
talked about that. Yeah.
They they kept up the feeling that you're in hell the whole time that they
Yeah. Oh,
performed.
yeah, dude. They're
Like
great.
like just like strobe lights and red lights and smoke and noise going on between every song. Like, that's the way black metal should be. I really get annoyed if like a band like tries to be like too like rock and roll like on stage. You know what I mean? If they're playing black metal, because I just feel like it doesn't fit the whole aesthetic. You know what I mean?
I even hate it when they say, "All right, this is the last song" or something like that. Just things like that
I
infuriate me.
I prefer no communication. Although like it is funny, like Paul Libney from Prophetic, when I saw them, he just would like go on these diatribes in his like black metal voice, and he didn't really know what he was saying.
Talking shit about Norway and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
he
Yeah.
primarily talked shit about Norway, and it was pretty funny.
How
Yeah,
was that?
yeah. Shog and I, we would it was organic. Like we never knew. Like, was it me that was going to say something, or was it him that was going to say something? We just kind of just naturally happened. But before every song, we never sort of we did and we didn't like introduce the song, but we would just say like the most heinous lyric from that song, and then just fork out into the song. Like we played the song called "Rape Worship," and I think I just said the word rape like 12 times, just over and over and over again. Like I didn't even say the song name, I didn't say anything. I just said rape like 10 times and then full count into the song just to really make sure everybody's feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah,
And
they're getting their feelings hurt.
yeah, and even like we didn't really even have a sound check, honestly. Like the sound guys were running around that stupidly, but the event organizer was just sort of sound checking the Shog's mic, like the main microphone, just saying, "All right, everybody, sorry about the delay, blah blah blah. Everybody, come on in," and and as he's doing that, he was only doing it to Shog's mic, and my microphone was near my drums, obviously. So I just like stormed over in my war paint and my attire, and I can't remember. I think I just yelled either rape or cunt as loud as I could in the microphone, like interrupting the guy sound checking. And he's like, "Oh, okay, all right. Well, I guess we're all ready to go." And yeah, just little details. Like I said, my microphone wasn't as loud as it should have been, but I don't want people to remember that. I want them to remember, why was that guy staring at me? Why did he say rape like 12 times? Just
They'll
little
never
things
know.
like that.
They'll never know. They'll just wonder about it forever. So
Well, cunt doesn't have the same impact in Australia, I think, as it does here in the States, man. You know, I think like in the States, when you say cunt, it's like domestic abuse, like in a word. Or like in Britain and like down in Australia, I think it's like a little bit more of like a catch-all, like sort of, multiple use term, I believe, right?
yeah,
Yeah, it depends on the context, I guess. But there's like
yeah,
weird rules where, if you call someone champ or buddy, then that's like, okay, let's I'm gonna wrap a brick around your forehead. Like that's way worse than calling someone cunt.
Really? So, calling somebody, hey, champ, that's like worse than,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
If someone's like, listen here, champ, like that's like, yeah, that's worse.
Those are fighting
That's
words.
Pretty
that's
much
that's
like
funny.
you're about to get curb stomped.
Well, I just always found it funny watching like British stuff and they just call each other, guys calling each other cunts all the time. I just thought it was funny. I was like, yeah, I mean, to me, it's just like, I mean, it's funny. It's a wholly different thing than telling a woman like "you fucking cunt." You know what I mean? That's like
Yeah,
a
it's like
different type of context. You know what I mean?
you try to run that here. It's like you slapped him in the face or something like that. And it's crazy. That's like one of my favorite words to use though, honestly. Cunt.
Yeah,
Such a
it's
good
just
word.
a funny word.
I just don't get offended by a word. That's
No.
just me personally.
No,
But yeah, it was fun. Um, yeah, it was a cool show. Hopefully we get more. Um, I'd like to play with similar sort of styles or more appropriate sort of shows, but it is what it is. I'll take what I can get, type of thing. Um, but no, it was fun.
at least you guys got to play with Gravier. So
Yeah, yeah, they were probably the most suitable band on the lineup. But yeah, it was cool. You got to start somewhere, and it was
next,
cool. It was really strange. When we were there, um, I brought my own kit, which was frowned upon because everybody wanted to just use the one kit, but I don't care. I kind of established my dominance, and as I was setting up and everything, and about to start playing, there was like a couple of kids, maybe like they would have been 16, at the oldest, maybe if that, and they all had like Death Horde shirts, but they
Oh
were like
wow.
bootleg Death Horde shirts,
That's
like they
sick.
made
That's
them
awesome, man.
themselves. And I was like, that's pretty cool. And um, after we played, um, they wanted like our signature and stuff, which was weird.
oh
But I was
wow,
like happy to oblige. Like
yeah,
I was sort of thinking about it. I don't know, like who would turn up and what type of crowd and stuff like that. But it was pretty cool. And then we got these big like stage prop, like big flags made up,
yeah,
and they were the place I got them made. I wanted them, black with the gray logo, but they sent me like really dark navy blue, and they said they were gonna resend me them, but in the black that I originally ordered, and I could just keep the other ones. So I gave them one of the flags just
Oh,
as a
that's cool.
thank you, and yeah, it was really cool. And like you were saying before, like um, sort of have like I guess the concept of what punk is. Um, out of I don't know, it's just something in me, I think. But I dressed up for the show, like in my stage attire and like war paint. And then when I took it all off afterwards, um, when I was leaving, I was just wearing like one of my gym shirts and like didn't have the shit on my face anymore. And I said I drove past some of those kids that were wearing the bootleg shirts, and I just waved. I said, "See you guys, thanks for coming." And they looked at me like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" And and I kind of like that. Like I want to be able
yeah,
to sort of hide in plain sight. Like I don't
yeah,
want people to be like, "Oh yeah, that's that dickhead who said rape 12 times." Like, you know what I mean? Like they're like,
yeah,
"Thanks, random dude," and I was like, "That's even better."
yeah. No, that's actually good. You kind of like they don't even recognize you. You could just
Kind
like,
of like
wow, yeah.
Superman, like I go in the phone booth and then I come out as Clark Kent or something.
I guarantee you that happens to a lot of black metal guys because they like who wear like makeup and stuff because you know they I've seen that happen because one of the times I saw Watain, Eric was just walking around the crowd and no one even recognized him. I recognized him because I've seen enough videos with him. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's only like 3 feet tall too.
yeah.
So yeah.
And when Kyle saw Emperor, he told me that Ishan came and like stood like right next to him. Or not, no, it wasn't that show. It was that when he was at Beyond the Gates or something. That's what it
Oh,
was.
nice. Yeah.
Like Ishan was just like, but he's like, he didn't want to bother him, but Ishan was just like standing there with his like backpack on and stuff, like just in the back, like watching the show, like,
Yeah,
you
dude.
know,
Yeah, being like meeting people sometimes is weird. Like when we played a Roadburn one year, Tom Warrior was backstage, like in the not in the backstage, but in the loading area. And he just was like walking in through the back, I guess. And I just like I didn't even remember how I was talking to you. I just stopped talking to that person and I rolled up to Tom G Warrior. And I was just like I felt like I was like 12 talking to him. It was fucking awesome, man. And he was cool, you
yeah,
know? And then like that same show, Fields of the Nephilim played, and I saw Carl McCoy in the green room areas. Like, because everyone at that festival, everyone has like these little rooms that you can hang out in, and then there's like a big common area where people eat and get coffee and stuff. And I just did not have the balls to go and talk to him, man. I was like,
he was
I was gonna
good.
leave him alone, man. I didn't
Yeah,
want to be bothered by me, you know.
you kind of started. It's really just because you're like that like 12-year-old or whatever, like 16-year-old is like, oh my God, what do I even say? That's how I felt when I met Danzig. I didn't really say
Oh
much of
man,
anything to him because I was just
yeah.
like, it was totally random too, because I was just at Jack's shop and Danzig was playing that night. I was going to the show that night, and in walks Danzig with his bodyguard guy,
Yeah, dude.
and um and I was just like, it was so surreal. It took me a second to register what was happening. I was like, is that fucking Danzig? And he just went and did shopping, bought a ton of records there, and
Nice.
you know, I
I
said a
never
couple
like
things to him, and that was it. I just didn't want to bother him. He was out doing his shit. You know what I mean?
I never care really. Like I usually just say, "Hey man, what's going on? Big fan." That's about it.
It,
You know what I
it
mean? Like it doesn't really bother me too much, but
It all
like
depends on the person though.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, like Danzig's like probably my favorite artist of all time. You know what I mean? So I definitely have
Yeah.
had that
Yeah, that's true.
teenage, that little like, oh, I don't know what to even say. You know what I mean?
That's how it was
Like
with Carl McCoy too, man. Because I was like, what, like he's like an icon to me, you know.
Yeah,
I
I would feel the
saw
same way.
I saw a Bath a couple of weeks ago, and he was doing the Doom Occulta set where he just does all the Immortal songs, which was cool. But I would have liked. I'm a big fan of the Bath solo albums as well, but I was happy with what I got. And I'm a big fan of the drummer of that band, Ukre, his name is. And same thing. He was just in the crowd, and no one like no one knew like who he was. They were just like he was just walking past people, and people were just oblivious. Which fair enough, but me being a drummer and a drum nerd, I like walked up to him and was like, "Hey man, really excited to see the show," blah blah, blah, and like chatted with him for about 20 minutes, and he was like he was really receptive, and I think like grateful that someone, even though it was like a just drum nerds, like recognized him and appreciated him sort of being there. But no, it was cool. It was really cool to see him and meet him and stuff like that. But when I saw Crowbar and met Kirk and everybody in the band, that was challenging, like to meet Kirk, just because his music and stuff means so much to me. But thankfully he wasn't a cockhead. Like he was a
Oh
really,
no,
really nice
yeah,
dude.
no, those guys, he's awesome, man. Yeah, we did a
Yeah,
whole
so
U.S. tour with
nice.
them, man. They were great.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, no, he's nicest dude. And I ended up going to every show in Australia, and we're on the same flights and
Oh
stuff like
well,
that. And we just hung out for like the whole
yeah.
tour, which was cool. But yeah, it's always really annoying and disappointing when you meet, I guess, a band that you like so much, and respect so much, and then they turn out to be like fuckheads. Which I don't want to name names, but that happened with a particular hardcore band, who sing quite positive messages about, like you said, unity and brotherhood and, we're all a family here type of thing. And
Yeah.
then when I met him, he was like real, like, I get it. Like, I'm sure people come up to him all the time, but, yeah, he was just like a real dick,
Yeah.
like not in a cool way or anything, just like, just a dick. And it was like, wow, everything you sing about is a fucking lie and a joke type of thing, is what I sort of gathered. I don't know. It's like I don't believe what you're singing about anymore because of how you are as a person,
Right.
and
That's
yeah,
that's how it
kind of
happens a
ruined.
lot, right?
Yeah, it ruined sort of the band for me.
Well, the
Like,
more positive somebody's like, oh yeah, positive, like they're probably more fucked up than the people who are like super negative. You know what I mean?
yeah, but I don't know. Like, we were in an airport. There was always like people around, but there was like I noticed. We're a small community, and like I noticed you amongst the crowd, and I went out of my way to say hello and shake your hand and stuff. Like, at least be like, oh yeah, thanks, man. Like, cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if
You
you're
don't
in
have
a
to
big
be like,
crowd of people who all know who you are, maybe you could get away with, I guess, being short and blunt. But yeah, I don't know. It was really off-putting, and I was like, well, there goes all my faith in humanity. But that's all right.
yeah. I mean, it's one of those things like, you know, I guess it's just the way people are sometimes. You don't expect to have a big long conversation with somebody, but just like if they're just cool about meeting you for a second, you know what I mean? Like, or just a straight up dick about it, And
Yeah,
I've definitely uh heard of people who are just complete straight up dicks about stuff, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
and
It was
like
off-putting.
like a like one of those 2 second interactions you have with somebody, you're like, oh wow, that person was a piece of shit, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah, they could be having a bad day, but eventually you start hearing from other people who are like, yeah, he's like that all the time or something, like that's what happens a lot of times.
yeah. Like, if you're on like you said, when you met Danzig, like if Danzig was a dick, I wouldn't be mad. I'd be like, yeah, it's justifiable. Like, it's
But he
not
but he was
justifiable,
but he wasn't a
but
dick though. Yeah, I know.
yeah, so that's even
It was
better.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. It was interesting.
Same thing with I've met Tom Warrior as well when they were on the tour here of 1349.
Oh, Triptychon, right? The
Yeah,
Triptychon tour.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't I wish I'd gone on the show that night. I didn't end up going to that show, which I regret to the stake, so it'd been sick, but they came in my Starbucks back when I worked at
Oh,
Starbucks
wow.
downtown. But him and then the bass player from I think it's the bass player from 1349 came in a little bit later. I talked to him a little bit. And the funny thing is the reason I didn't really know what Triptychon was at that time when Tom Warrior came in, he's wearing a Triptychon hat. And I was like, dude, this guy looks so like I was like, this fucking Tom Warrior. I was like, like what is Triptychon? Like I didn't know like I didn't know I don't know what was going on. And so I looked it up on my old phone, like on my archives. I was like, oh fuck, it's Tom Warrior's new band. And then I didn't even know they were playing that night. I didn't even know 1349 were playing. That's why I didn't end up going, because I just didn't have money to go to a show. You know what I mean? It's like if I had known about it earlier, I would have gone. But
Yeah.
it was cool. I mean, and he was cool, like when I met him, like made his fucking drink.
Yeah, I was hip to them as soon as that record came
Yeah.
out. And then like I remember I missed their show in New York because we got back from tour like that day. And then they played a show in Boston the next day when I was home. And I got a ticket for the show in Boston and drove all the way up there. And I stayed in like a hotel room and shit like that. And then I went to the show and I was like, this is the greatest thing I've seen in years. And then a few years later when we played at Roadburn, I was like, I saw him walking because you can't miss him. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's
he's very
obviously
distinctive.
him.
Yeah, yeah,
And like I was talking, I don't even remember who I was talking to. It was like probably one of the guys in my band or someone, man. I was like, I'm like, that's Tom Warrior. I gotta say hello to him. I gotta meet him. And I got like a photo with him and everything. And like,
yeah.
it's on my Instagram from like years ago. And people were telling me like, that's like the only time I've ever seen you look happy in a picture. Like you're actually smiling in that picture. And I'm like, yeah, dude, it was fucking sick meeting Tom Warrior, you know?
Yeah, he's really cool. And yeah, that was how I got hip to Triptychon, and then I immediately, pretty much right after, like, or bought the CD, the first CD, and yeah, I
Yeah,
mean
it's
those
sick.
those
I love
albums are
that
sick.
record.
And they haven't toured in the States since. They've played a couple dates here and there, but they haven't toured the States since that tour, which is crazy to me, you know.
Yeah, they did like Maryland Death Fest one year, and I think that was like had to be at least 10 years ago. At least 10
Yeah.
years ago.
And I think they played like Psycho Las Vegas or something.
Yeah.
Like, he just played a few dates here and there. I'm like, it's kind of crazy to me because I know that the Celtic Frost tour that they did when they got back together was pretty successful.
Yeah.
Um, I think that I've heard something that they might be doing a Triumph of Death tour,
That could be
doing the
cool.
Hellhammer songs,
Yeah.
which would be sick too. I would really like to see Triptychon proper as well, but it would be cool to see them play Hellhammer songs as well. So,
Yeah, it'd
you
be
know,
cool if they did like a nice long set of like Triptychon and Hellhammer and Frost songs. That'd be
see,
really cool.
that's what I would like. What I would like to see is like a set of like Hellhammer stuff as Triumph of Death, and then transition to some Triptychon and Frost stuff.
Yeah.
Like
Well, it's like that. There was that Danzig Legacy tour that happened a few years, like a while ago at this point, where he did
yeah, those yeah,
Danzig, Misfits, and Sam Hain songs.
yeah. That shit. I didn't get to see that tour because I don't think it came to Denver. But because that was over 20 years ago. Like, because I
It
first
was
time I
that
saw,
long ago.
yeah,
Fuck, dude.
first time I saw Danzig was in 2007. That was the year that I met him, and I've seen him every time since then except for one. And
Damn.
I think that Legacy tour actually was like 2 years, was like 2005, I think. So
Yeah. 2000. Fuck, dude. Time
yeah,
flies, man.
was something like that. Yeah. And if it so but yeah, I mean that must have been so sick because I know he brought out people like I think
Like,
London May
yeah,
and
Steve Zing, you know.
yeah, Steven came out for Sam Hain part. No,
Yeah.
so cool. The tour I did see though was the first time like the first tour I saw was when he was touring Gorgeous Frankenstein, and it was the first time that he played like Misfit songs as part of like his set. Like Doyle came out at the end of the show and they did a whole like encore of Misfit songs.
Did Doyle have AC Slade playing his parts for him like they do with the Misfits?
I'm not sure because I don't even know if he was playing guitar necessarily because that was back when, because at that point there was Todd Youth and Danzig had two guitar players in the
Right,
band.
yeah.
We had
Yeah.
Todd Youth and what's his name, the other guy from
Oh, the guy from Prong.
Prong. That's when they were both in the band.
Yeah, Tommy Victor, yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if Doyle wasn't even playing guitar. I don't know if he's playing. I mean, maybe he's playing some. I'm not sure, but it was still cool.
When I saw Misfits a few years ago at this point, they actually had a dude on stage playing guitar. Like, and
Right,
he was like way back in the shadows. Like there was no lighting on him.
right.
And it's this guy AC Slade, who's like he's like a New York, New Jersey like rock guy. He's been in he's played in like Joe and Jett's band. He played in Ace Frehley's band.
Yeah,
He's like one of these like like there's that sliver of like the world of music that he like lives in,
yeah.
like like he's there and he makes a living somehow like playing in all these different bands and he must have made a nice salary playing for Misfits though. But yeah,
The
so I really have a feeling that Doyle's not like playing anything on stage really.
well, it's like slamming his
Slamming his
guitar and
guitars,
yeah,
like he's got the whole get up on and everything.
yeah. That's
Yeah,
I think I think it's more of just a whole performance thing, like for
yeah.
him. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, Danzig was not. Danzig was dressed like he was dressed like Danzig. Like he didn't have an outfit on. You know, it was cool.
yeah. Dude, when I met him that one show, obviously I saw him that later that night. The only thing that he did, he was wearing the exact same thing he was wearing during the day, except for he put his Danzig belt
The
buckle
giant
on,
belt. Yeah,
and then he wore like different boots. But he was
yeah,
dressed exactly the same as he was when I saw him earlier in the day, and I was like, that's so cool because he's just doing that punk thing of just like he is who he is. He goes on stage like that was the thing with Misfits was like yeah, they're putting on a show, like they would do stuff like the blood or whatever, but the reality is those motherfuckers would walk around every day like that. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like
That's
if you
fucking
see
awesome,
photos
man.
like Jerry Only and Doyle and Danzig, they were walk around every day with like the makeup and everything on. You know what I mean? Like they were wasn't it was the same thing with like the Damned. Only Dave Vanian just looked like that every day, and he was just happened to be the band in the like the singer. He became the singer for the Damned. And that created like this kind of goth aesthetic in a way. It was
Yeah,
just a
totally.
natural thing for him. Like I always kind of like that. That's kind of my thing, but I'm like, I think it's cool. And then you just do a little bit of stuff for theatrics.
No, totally.
Like I always like that as well. I mean, I like both. I like bands that go full on like covered in blood, like just like fucking crazy theatrics, and then also like the fact that Danzig's just Danzig all the time.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for joining, guys. It's cool. Anyone out there listening, the single's available on my recently I don't know what I want to call it, a platform, Ordo Tenebris. There's going to be more stuff coming out on that imprint. So for now, HoloLens is the first thing you can pick up on that, and that's Bandcamp right now. And working on getting everything up on the streaming site too, up in the streaming world, and then eventually Scorpion Throne will migrate its way over there, and more HoloLens material, as well as the Begotten Son stuff will be showing up on there.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Are you gonna do
yeah,
more of that?
oh yeah, yeah.
Cool.
It's
Oh yeah.
yeah. I have some rough ideas for that, and then there's going to be an unnamed band that I'm about maybe halfway done demoing. That's going to feature some other people on it that we'll probably be doing shows and stuff too. That'll be like a more of a live thing, but
Cool.
that I'll more about that later. But that's going to be like
Yeah.
another Ordo Tenebris release sometime later this year.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna keep
Yeah,
him busy, right?
got to, man.
Yeah.
It's like I'm like a shark. I die if I stop moving.
Yeah. That's yeah. That's how I feel a lot of times. It's gotta keep going. So
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys, and yeah, man. Thanks
thanks,
for
Hank.
listening. All right, take care, dudes.
Jog.
Shog.
The